So for a second Vancouver vs Toronto video, we're going to be comparing and focusing on transportation.
We will be comparing the overall transportation system to get you guys from point A to point B.
You guys will know that the differences are pretty different.
So without any further delay, let's get straight into this video.
So to start off, we'll talk about the transit system. The transit system here in Toronto is absolutely horrible. There's so many buses, but it's always delayed for some reason. And the bus will never come on time. The city's so big that there's so little frequent stops that sometimes when you want to get from point A to point B, there's no stop in between. You have to walk like 40 minutes to get to your destination. The fare is expensive, it's around $4 for a trip, and there's so many companies that sometimes when you transfer buses, you have to pay another fare just to get on because it's not the same company. And as for trains, there's one train, there's no SkyTrain because it's not as convenient as Vancouver. And apparently the train isn't convenient, apparently it's bad. I've never taken it, don't take my word for it. My friends say it's horrible. It's hard to get from one place to another. So overall, I wouldn't recommend taking the public transit if you don't have to.
So for Vancouver, there are 4 main SkyTrain lines. There's the Canada Line, Millennium Line, Expo Line, and the Evergreen Line. Other than that, there's also the C-Bus that gets you guys from downtown to North Vancouver, and also a West Coast Express, which I've never taken, but I believe it gets you from downtown to Coquitlam. So taking a SkyTrain is probably the most convenient way for you guys to get from city to city, pretty much. Unfortunately, for the Canada Line, it's usually delayed, and in the mornings it's like super packed, and you won't even be able to fit like yourself in a bag, especially in the morning if you're going to school. Other than that, the SkyTrains are usually delayed. There have been times where I just get off work and I just want to go home, and then it says like 20 minutes for the next train or like 15 minutes for the next train. I'm just like, bro, I just have to like sit there and just think about my life, you know, like I could be at home. Other than SkyTrains, there's also buses, which also count as a transit system here in Vancouver. The only perk about buses is that you only have to pay for one zone and you can take the bus wherever you want, so you can cross cities or like cross zones without you paying anything extra. Unfortunately, the bus drivers are usually grumpy, especially if they're having a bad day. They'll definitely take it out on you.
Secondly, the better part about Toronto is the taxi system, but not necessarily the taxis. It's the Uber and the Lyft. So Uber is super convenient, it's cheaper than a taxi. There are still taxis here, so if you'd rather take taxis, you can still take them. But Ubers are more cheaper, they're more convenient. You can call them anywhere you want. It's simply putting your location on your phone, you tap it, and it'll come and tell you when it comes, it'll tell you who's coming, you get ratings, you have your own ratings. So it's just super convenient. So if you're lost, your location's already on your phone, it'll automatically put your GPS to where you are, and then they'll come pick you up and you go directly to wherever you need to go.
So if you're coming into Vancouver from like the States or the eastern side of Canada, you won't be able to use Uber here. BC just doesn't allow it for some reason. We are getting a ride sharing app, but it's not Uber, so I don't know if I trust it that much. Anyways, you can take the taxis, but to warn you again, I don't know why everyone in Vancouver is so grumpy. Like, it's such a nice city, but taxi drivers are grumpy as well. They drive super aggressively, especially if you're like getting out of the club and you're kind of drunk. They'll even go as far as kick you out. Aside from that, there's different companies like a Car2Go, Evil Car Share, Moto. There's companies like that where you can pay by the hour and then just rent a car for the day. The only downside about that is that you have to know how to drive, whereas for Uber or taxi, you can just literally just know how to use your phone and then just tap and you're pretty much on your way to your destination.
Finally, if you own a car yourself, it's sometimes going to be difficult, but other times it'll be alright. If you're living in the heart of downtown, it's going to be pretty much impossible for you to drive, especially during rush hour. So don't bank on that. If you're in other places such as Mississauga or Brampton, it's much easier to drive. There's a lot of lanes, but at certain times there's still a lot of traffic. There's a lot more traffic compared to Vancouver just because it's a bigger city, which means more people. Obviously there are more cars. But if you do own a car, it's not impossible to get around, but I know most people prefer just taking Uber or Lyft if they can afford it.
So last but not least, if you guys can get your hands on a car in Vancouver, I highly recommend it. In my opinion, I feel like Vancouver is one of the easier cities to drive in. Everything's pretty straightforward, it's just left side and right side. There are 2 annoying things about driving in Vancouver. One of them is there's a lot of one-ways in downtown. One-ways are pretty common around the world, but one thing about Vancouver is that, I'm not sure about other cities, in particular, but I know especially for Vancouver there are a lot of one-ways with bike lanes, so sometimes if you're turning right into a one-way you might turn into a bike lane and it's just so annoying. One more thing is that if you're driving on highways in Vancouver, there are usually only 2 lanes. You will rarely find highways that are like 3 or more, unless you're going from like one side of Vancouver to the other, like Richmond to like Surrey or whatever. So as you guys saw, Vancouver is much more convenient if you're depending on the transit system or if you're driving.
But it is more convenient in Toronto if you depend more on the taxi system, as there is Uber and Lyft.
All in all, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. We hope we gave you guys a really good idea of which form of transportation to take if you're either visiting Vancouver or Toronto. But do keep in mind that these are all of our own personal experiences and opinions, so it's really up to your own judgment which form of transportation you guys want to take. We hope you guys enjoyed part 2 of our Vancouver versus Toronto series. Definitely a lot more to come. Keep putting suggestions in the comment section down below, and then we'll see you guys this Sunday with a new vlog.